Okay, so we're up to Tes Amid Beis. The Mishnah, we had a machlokus Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel regarding moving a ladder from a coop. Right? We said one machlokus was in a shail of Maris Ayin or Rishus Harabim. Says Rabbi Beis Hillel, it's not a problem of Maris Ayin. Beis Shammai says it's a Maris Ayin problem. People will think you're going to move that ladder to go ahead and do some work on Yom Tif. Beis Hillel said the ladder will be mechiach alav. If it's a type of ladder that's built for the shayvich, we call it a coop ladder, then people will know it's for a coop. And we said in the Mishnah, we said in the Bryce of the Gemara, therefore, Divriyakol, everyone will be moida if it's a ladder for an aliyah, that you would be asa to do. Along the way, Beis Shammai did say, you could go ahead and incline it from one in the coop, from one compartment to another compartment. You would be able to go ahead and incline the ladder. So that's what we're up to. We're up to We're up to Tes Amid Beis, about three quarters of the way down. Now, Alma Gabi Simchas Yontif, regarding Simchas Yontif, getting the chicks, getting the birds to Shech, Beis Shammai L'chumra, because he doesn't let you carry a ladder. Beis Hillel L'kula, Beis Hillel is Mekel. Now, this is going to be a kasha that's going to be throughout the next Amid of Gemara. So let's get the kasha down straight. Clearly over here, Beis Hillel, when it comes to Simchas Yontif, Beis Shammai is being machmir. He's not allowing you to go ahead and take the ladder. Whereas Beis Hillel is being makel because he's allowing you to take the ladder. Now, it's a stira from the first Mishnah we did in the Masechta. I'll ask you a question on this. I'm just getting a reflection over here. Getting worse reflection over here. Okay. If they want to come to the share, they come to the share. If they want to see a reflection on the recording, tough. Now, so you have our Mishnah, the first Mishnah. If someone shechs a chayav go ahead and take a shovel and cover the blood. Beis Hillel goes ahead and he stymies your Simchas Yontif. He's stymieing your Simchas Yontif by the fact that he's not letting you do shchita unless you can go ahead and do the mitzvah Kisei Adam. But being unable to do the mitzvah Kisei Adam, he says, don't shech. You won't have meat. You won't have meat. So you see the Indian Simchas Yontif providing a food. Beis Hillel is being machmir, and Beis Shammai is being mekel. So l'chayr, you have a steer from our first Mishnah to this Mishnah. Good. So now, listen to this teretz. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan held as such a shver kasha. Muchlefes hashita. Change around the girsa. Now, Rashi says change around the girsa in the second brisa. In this brisa that we just decided by being moilech the ladder, say that Beis Hillel doesn't let you carry the ladder, and Beis Shammai does let you carry the ladder. Change that around. So now they're in cognizant in the same signun as the first Mishnah, where Beis Shammai was mekel the Inyan doing shchita, despite the fact being it may not permit you to go ahead and dig new dirt to go ahead and cover the blood. Again, if it's afetituach, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we have a shita. And secondly, over here also, he lets you carry the ladder. Beis Hillel will not let you go ahead and shecht unless it's prepared beforehand. He'll be my neah, hold you back your Simchas Yontif, who are then over here to carry the ladder to get a bird for Simchas Yontif, he'll hold you back. That was this. In other words, we had a Messiah that there was Mechlefes Ashita. Now, if I could answer up the seeming stira from carrying ladders to Kisei Hadam, why would it be necessary to go ahead and be Mechlefes Ashita? In other words, it's a very shver din to say, well, they hold the opposite view. That means there was something lost along the way. You could be guilty also of accusing somebody of saying something you didn't say. So this is a very, very difficult way to deal with it. You know, it's not a terrorist that you find often of Mechlefes Ashita. So the Gemara now is going to give 4 or 5 possibilities of making this the same stira from various mishnayos from this Masechta. We're going to say Mechlefes Ashita. In other words, in each one we're going to have a potential teretz until finally you might arrive at one where not Mechlefes Hashita. Okay? So here, now we're going to have a teretz. What's the teretz? Again, what's the stira? Why does Beis Hillel say you could carry a ladder, and then he says you don't shecht, right? Says the Gemara, Memai, Dilma Ad Kan like Beis Shammai Hasam over there by Kisei Adam, El Hechad the Ikad Decker Noitz. In other words, where it's in the ground, and you don't have to worry about achana, and then it's Efa Tituach, and you don't have to worry about Tisha, about Teichen, then Aval Hechad the Leka Decker Noitz like. In other words, there are certain levels of where the Chachamim extended Simchas Yontif. We saw this in the Tosfos, right? 2 levels. Remember, based upon a Mashah, 2 levels they didn't permit. Kilkel, just making a hole in the ground, which with Mekalkel Potter they would permit, but 2 things, putting it in the ground and then digging it out, they didn't permit. So I have a teretz. It's not a stira. Over there where it's in the ground already, where it's no big deal, therefore Simchas Yontif would override. Over here, I'm going ahead, Al Smaras Ayin, carrying this thing, the Simchas Yontif won't override. So why would it be necessary to go to the extreme? That's the word I was looking for before. The extreme teretz, the same Mechlefes Hashita, when I have an apparent nafkamina between the 2. So therefore, we'll go on another quest to find another place where we had this misoira of this extreme teretz of Mechlefes Hashita. Vinami, or another possibility to answer up the stira between the ladder and the Kisei Adam. I come like by the ladder. The reason why he won't stop you is because clearly you're carrying the ladder for what? For coop purposes. So there's no Marisayan because there's no Isser of coop purposes. Aval Hasam over there by Kisei Adam, loy. So in other words, so why did you go to the extreme of Mechlefes Hashita? Ella, ikasha, if you want a kasha from Beis Shammai, and to Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, where the machmir, the inyan Simchas Yontif, here it is. Beis Shammai, again, this is going to be a mission on the next blot. Lo yitel ada ella im keina neim mibayoin. Now, when you have these you're going to a shayvach, right? You're going to a bird to shecht. We all know that the bird has to be muchan. You have to take off the muktzah. You have to prepare it. Good. How do you prepare a bird for shechita? I'm not talking about putting in rub on it, or I'm talking about right, cutting it, whatever that's called. Right. We're not talking about that. We're talking about halachically. How do you go ahead and deal with that issue? Halachically, why do you go ahead and deal with that issue? So it's very geschmack. You know what you do? You go, you say, this is my bird. It says Beis Shammai, it's not enough to say it. You have to mamish take the bird and do like the lulav. You got to go ahead and aneya. You got to shake the bird. You have to do a physical act of hachana. Not enough dibur. You need a physical act of hachana. So don't take a bird. Unless you went ahead and you picked it up on Erev Yontif. You can stand. Lamdaf can stand. I'm going to take these birds. In other words, you don't have to do a physical act. Amira alone would do the job. Alma, what do you see? Again, we'll get into these mishnayos in this relative makkah. Right now, we just need the same concept of being machmir by Simchas Yontif and Beis Shammai and being mekel Beis Hillel. That's the common theme, the common thread throughout the following mishnayos is Beis Shammai is machmir in Simchas Yontif, Beis Hillel is mekel. Alma gabi Simchas Yontif, Beis Shammai l'chumra, because he requires you to do a physical act in the bird, or Beis Hillel l'kula by calling the name alone. Or remember, it's a stira. Shaychet chayiv by Yontif by what? Kisei Adam. Or Rabbi Yochanan Mechlefes Hashita, switch it around. Over here, Beis Hillel requires you to do a physical action, and Beis Shammai says, no, it's enough to go ahead and do an amira. Says maybe that you don't have to come to that extreme. Over there, you know why? It's not such a big spitz because it already it's stuck in the ground. And therefore he would agree over here that what? In other words, it's not a carte blanche statement. Simchas Yontif gives you a complete heter. Maybe over there he allowed Kisei Adam because the preparation of Achona had been done already. You don't have to worry about what the Ketisha because it's speaking about soft earth. You don't have to worry about a Guma because the halacha is like Rav Abba. Abba said you go ahead and you're dealing with Guma, Rav Abba. So therefore, since there was nothing to worry about, Simchas Yontif would override the Guma in the ground, which is part of Avalasa. Mashenkin over here to go ahead and say that Amira alone would go ahead and be making the bird. Maybe Simchas Yontif, you would agree Clearly, he would say, no, you can't do that. So again, why come on to the extreme terrors of Mechlefes Hashita when we have a way out? Inami is always in Beis Hillel. Inami, Ad kan lekom Beis Hillel hacha, elakim in the muktzah. Since it's muktzah, and that's the only problem, but oimid v'oimid zevezani noitel sagi, that's enough to take off the muktzah. That's enough. Act of achana is amira. Abel Hasam over there by what? By Kisi Adam, loy, because it's a physical act. So therefore, why is it necessary to go ahead and come on to the extreme terrors of Mechlefes Hashita when we have a way out? Ella ikasha, you want a kasha of Simchas Yontef by Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, here's a kasha. Again, this is Mishnayos we're going to see in the Masechta, guys. Beis Shammai Yomrim, a noitlin esva Eli lekatze v'lo basa. An Eli is a pestle. It was like they used to crush spices with it, and it seemed to be like a chopping block. So if you wanted to use a piece of meat and put on top of it, now an Eli is muktzah on Yontif because you're not allowed to crush it on Yontif. Now we have a halacha muktzah that's muktzah machmas issa sorach kufay. You could use it. So you're allowed to use a hammer, the classic case, to crack nuts, right? You're allowed to use a hammer to crack nuts because that's, even though it's a klisha malachtei le'issa, sorach kufay, using the kli itself for the purpose that it wasn't made for is permitted. So l'chayra over here, this muktzah, you should be able to use an Eli. Why? Because of it's muktzah machmas isser and muktzah machmas kufay, and therefore it should be permitted. Sorach kufay should be permitted. It's I said muktzah machmas kufay. And you know Eli lekatze v'lov basar Beis Hillel matirin. Alma gabe simchas yontif Beis Shammai l'chon Beis Hillel kula. In other words, the havmin of Gemara, it's not a muktzah problem; it's a simchas yontif problem. So therefore, you see the akasha. How do you reconcile Beis Shammai being machman, not letting you use the pestle, yet on the other hand, letting you shech then cover the blood? Or mino shech chayvay Beis Shammai b'chula. Rabbi Yochanan Mechlefes Hashita. Maybe I have a way out of this as well. Do ma'alohi ad kan lekom Beis Shammai hasam ela heichad ikad dekan noitz. I will heichad look at dekan noitz like. Inami Beis Hillel, I can look at Beis Hillel hacha. It could Torah's clear love. The reason why you can go ahead and use it to put meat on it because it has a Torah's kli. Once it has a Torah's kli, it's not muktzah. Aval hasam loy over there where it doesn't have a Torah's kli. It's nothing to do with mitzvah. It has to do with an act of what of being mevatel in this mitzvah of kisi adam loy. Eli kasha hakashi. You want a kasha? Here's a kasha. Beis Shammai Yomrim ein noistem esa or lufnei adarsim. Again, this is a smorgasbord of the blat to kam, guys. The mamish is a smorgasbord of the blat to kam. So now, ein noisten mesa or lefnei adarsim. Let's say you shecht an animal on Yontif. You have the skins, and part of the skinning process was people to step on them. So you're not able to go ahead and spread the skin, a hide of an animal before people. V'lo yagbi enu, and nor lift it up. Elem kein yeshulav kazayis basa. If it has kazayis basa, then it's not muktzah. Beis Hillel matirin. Beis Hillel says it's mutter. Look at Rashi. Beis Hillel matirin. Ksal kadaitach mishum simchas yontif. The loy shavis loy shachit. What does this have to do with simchas yontif, guys? If you won't be able to go ahead and skin the animal and process the hide properly, you won't shech the animal. It'll be mainea you. It'll hold you back from simchas yontif. So therefore, Beis Shammai, who does not let you go ahead and do it, is not worried about your simchas yontif. And Beis Hillel is worried about your simchas yontif. Kasha from Uriminu Alma Gabi Simchas Yontif Beis Shammai L'chumra, by not allowing you to go ahead and shech the animal Beis Hillel L'kula to spread it. Uriminu, I'll ask you a question. Ashachach Chai Vayif B'Yomtiv. Rabbi Yochanan Mechlefes Hashita. The same parents. So no, we have a way out. Remember, I don't believe I can't look on Beis Shammai Hasam Ella Heicha Deka Deka Noitz because it's already prepared. It's Simchas Yontif, a little Simchas Yontif, just to go ahead and take an existing shovel. It's muchan. It won't allow you to do it. Like over here, you won't allow you now to spread the hide. Inami in Beis Hillel, I can't look at my Beis Hillel. Hacha ella the chazi lenigza alave. In other words, it's not muktzah, guys, because you can go ahead and use it as a mat. You can spread it as a mat. They used to sit on their knees on the mat. Avul hasam by kisei adam loy. Avli kasha hakashi. When a kashi is the kashi. Beis Shammai Yomrim. I think by now, guys, you got the drift, huh? Yeah, you got it going. Yeah. Beis Shammai, don't worry, the Amid base is much harder. Beis Shammai says, Beis Shammai, you never get off scot-free, you know that. You never get off. Beis Shammai, aim misalkines at trisim b'yontif. Now we had this Masechta Shabbos, guys. They used to have in the windows, they had these shutters, and they would use them, not the shutters that were hanging, they would use them as tables. They would take them off and use them as tables and put their wares on the table in front of the store. So you can't remove these trees from a yontif, right? Beis Hillel matirin. Afla Hachse, and Basil permitted you even to put it back. He permitted you what? Even to put it back. Right? So because if you wouldn't put it back, you wouldn't take them off in the first place. If you don't take them forth in the first place, you can't use them. If you can't use them, right? It's Minei Simchas Yontif.
So is this Shabbos? Is this a Yontif thing or Shabbos also?
This is Shabbos. This is a Yontif, and this is Yontif. I don't know what he would hold by Shabbos. Shabbos was speaking about the Machlokes Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim, whether it was binyan, Meisif on the oil, which we had a few times. Okay, this is a Yontif Tikadin. Ein Smisalkanes Atris of Yontif and Bishul Matirin. Aflachs Alma Gabi Simplus Yontif Bishimel Shamel Lechon Beisol Kula. Or Minu Ashochet Chayev Voit B'Yontif. Bishleim Beishamaya Beishamel Kasha. Hasan Dekanoyets Dekanoyets El Beisil Kasha. It's a kasha. So Rabbi Yochanan Mechlefes Hashita. Now, there's an opinion, fellas, that the Gemara ends here. In other words, there's a tradition, and this is the way Rashi learned. There was a tradition that Rabbi Yochanan switched the shitas of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So according to Rashi, he switched the shitas regarding removing these trisim. That Beis Hillel will not let you remove it, and Beis Shammai would let you remove it. Okay? And now the Gemara would end according to Rashi. Good? So now, we'll continue on just to finish. Veloihi, in other words, according to this, there is no tradition and a place where Mechlefes Hashita, because we were able to answer up this as well, just so we answered up all the other attempts to go ahead and find out why Mechlefes Hashita. Veloihi, the reason he lets you put it back, there's no binyan b'stir b'kelim. What's the problem? You're building, it's not building b'kelim. Putting it back is not building. But there where it was, you're going to have to come, because kisi adam, then no, we wouldn't say that. Okay, so there's two ways to learn over here. Either it ended up and that we have a tradition like Rashi, or no, there's an opinion over here such as this, that even here there was no Mechlefes Hashita, and we answered up all the possibilities of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Good, very good. Okay, now we just had this previously. You're going to, again, we're pretty lucky, right? Take a look. You know, you guys don't have this. None of you are zeichet to have a freezer in your dining room, right? Any of you have a freezer in your dining room? I don't think so, right? But I usually keep a freezer in a basement, but some people don't have basements, so, or usage of basements. So I have at least a 55, 60-year-old, could be probably 50, 55-year-old freezer here that does a great job. And if my wife wants to make Yontif Shabbos, she goes to the freezer and boom, there it is. But in the old days, everything had to be fresh or very salted, right? High blood pressure, very salted, or it had to be fresh, right? So now, these Mishnayos that we're speaking about going to a shoivach, Erev Yontif Timechin, to us, it's like coming out of Mars, right? Like, right? But to them, no, this is very important. Think about it, guys. They needed to do this. They had to be mechin. Which birds am I going to go ahead and use? And how to do achana, because you need to be mechin. Good? So now, Beis Shammai yoimrim, layitel elm keinanemi b'yoim. In order to go ahead and do achana, it has to be physical. You have to go to the nest, take a bird, go shuckle the bird, right? Give it a shake, not too hard. You don't want to make it a treifa. You shake the bird up, and you have some chicken the next day. Says Beis Hillel, no, you don't have to go so extreme. Just go this one and this one. Now, again, you have to be specific, as we're going to see. The Gemara is going to get into it. Why don't we just say, let me take from that? No, he has to say bird number one and bird number two. You have to know the birds. Good? But that's enough of achana. Okay? Beis Shammai, a physical act. Beis Hillel, enough to go ahead and say words. How are we doing, guys? Good? That's the Mishnah. Beautiful, beautiful Gemara. It's a beautiful Masechta, guys. Beitzah, one Masechta that you can really learn, and halachically brought down all Hilchos Yontiv. It's very, very nice Masechta. Nice klolim, and it's just very nice. Rav Chanan Barami, we met him earlier. He had the two shitas in the Sulam. But you see that he was down Moira that was into this Masechta. You don't see him all over. Rav Chanan Barami, Machloikis bebrecha rishoina. Where do you have to go ahead and do a physical act? That's in the first brood. The Beis Shammai Savri Gazrina and Dilma Asilam Luche, maybe you change your mind. Beis Hillel Savri Loy Gazrina, you won't change your mind. Says Rashi. That's what's the chashuva thing about a brood, and this is an insight into birds. A little ornithology, according to, I think that's the right word, according to Rashi. Bebrecha Rishayna, Says Rashi, Derech megadla yoinim. It's the way that people who raise pigeons, doves. Laniach brecha rishona shall kol shana v'shana, to leave the first brood of every year. Liyos sabas leima, should be company for the mother. The mother's there making chicks, right? So the first set of chicks that are born, they leave their litzavos. That's the brecha rishona. Now, why does Beis Shammai require a physical act in the first brood? Gezerah kishakaluhu lemachar. If he takes in the next day without doing a physical act, maybe he's going to change his mind. He'll have rachmanis on them. And then it'll be what? Tiltul, that's not necessary. However, when he does a physical act, when it's Erev Yontif, the shchita v'leichas alayu sulei chashina dechayis. So we get a little psychology in a bird raiser, right? He leaves this first batch of the season, he leaves with mommy to keep mommy company. So what does he do? If let's say we just say Dibur, you know what? I'm going to take Yonah and Yonet. I'm going to take Yonah and Yonet, their lunch. Good. Next day he comes there, they look at him with these little eyes, and he goes, how can I do this? So then he's going to take other ones, which he didn't, there's no achana, right? There's no achana. So to ensure to have no problem, what are you going to do? Then the day before, he's going to go over to Yonah and go, he's going to go over to Yonet and go, and then as a result of that, it's clearly that action will go ahead and take away any possibility of Rahmanas. That's where Beis Shammai is Gezerah. Says Beis Hillel, no. Yonah, your lunch. Yonet, your dessert. No problem. Just say Yonah, Yonet, and you're finished. That's it. So that's Gemara means over here. Machlokes, the machlokes to Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, well, you need a physical act of that as a brecha rishona. That's only in the first brood. Beis Shammai sabi gazrinon v'goyzer dom basilam luchei. Maybe you're going to go ahead and change your mind. Beis Hillel sabi like gazrinon. Beis Hillel says no, we're not goyzer. Why? Because again, we're not. Our brecha rishnia, the second brood, as the chickens, as the pigeons, the doves continue to reproduce. Diriyakol ba'oimid. Rashi brings every month they have a batch except in the winter, right? Diriyakol ba'oimid. Even Beis Shammai would say, guys, that it's enough to go ahead and say zev ani noitel because you're not worried about him having rachmanis the next day. Why do you again? Beis Hillel, clearly you don't need an action. All you need is a dibur. Why do you have to be so specific in your dibur? As long as I say I'm taking birds from that area, it should be enough. Why do you have to say Yonah Yonina? Why do you have to go ahead and say exactly? Why do you have to go ahead and say exactly which one? Just say I'm going to take from there. That's the Mars Kasha. So now we get into the Shaila of Breira. We get into the Shaila of Breira. Now we've had Breira many times. I'll go through it outside once again. Breira is an act where something I do later on will retroactively show what I meant. We had a very geschmack, the classic case, a million times. For the kutim, you buy wine and you say, but you don't have kalim to go ahead and separate. So you say, well, the part should be truma, part should be ma'aser rishon, ma'aser sheni macholo, and then you drink it. And whatever's left over, we say, if you hold yesh breira, it's retroactively clear that was truma and that was ma'aser rishon. You give a get to your wife. Not chas v'shalom. Someone gives a get to a wife with the same name. The guy has to be lishma. He writes gittin. When you give, they're both. Which one do I mean? Whichever one I give it to, it's huvra dov that's the one I meant. You have erev here, erev there, right? We just had an erevin, Masechta erevin. I put two erevin. Which is where my kohen shvisa? Whichever one my Rabbi comes. Whichever your Rabbi comes, huvra dov that's where I wanted to go. That's breira. Good. So where's the breira over here? The breira over here is that what? I'm gonna take from there birds. I didn't take specific birds. It's huvra hadav mafreya. When I take those birds, those are the ones that I designated and took off the muktzah. Good. So pashtas, therefore, when Beis Hillel does not allow this, it must be holds of ein breira. Because if you hold a yesh breira, you wouldn't have to be so specific. An act later on will show what I meant, bein hashmashis, which words I meant. Good? Guys, good? Now, we're going to bring in a Mishnah and Oilis that we've done quite a few times, but again, we did it once. Okay. And I don't expect you to remember it. You know that the Indian, a mace in a house has a chumrah that it's metamatumas oil. That's what's in the house. You have doorways and there's an airspace in the doorway. If the doors are all closed and there's a mace in the house, any kalim that are underneath those doorways are also tameh. Now, the emes, it should only be tameh when the mace goes through that area and you have an oil in that area. Why are all of them tameh? Because since they're all closed, you don't know which way you're going out. So therefore, it's tameh. What happens if one opens up? Now, or you in your mind, you say, I'm going to take it out of there. If you say breira, then we'll say the following. We'll say it's huvra davar mafreya, that's all from the time that's where I was going to go out, and all the other doorways, all the kalim that are in the doorways will be tahar if you hold the breira. If you don't hold the breira, they'll be tameh. Okay, so now with that in mind, let's see the Gemara. Fred the Gemara Kasha. Just say I'm going to take from there without saying zeh. The chitem, what are you going to say? Beis Hillel leslu breira. That Beis Hillel does not hold the breira, and this is a case of breira because when I take it the next day, it's huvra avdav. These are the ones I meant the night before. But now is the Mishnah in Oilos. Hameis bebayis v'loy psachim harvei. You have a mace in the house, and you have many openings. Kulan tameim. They're all tamei. They're all tamei. Anything that is there, future or present, any kalim that are there in the present or the future will be tamei. Niftach echem mehem. If you go ahead and open at one of the openings, hu tamei, then anything anything that's there was tamei. For kulan tahirin, and all the previous ones, guys, the future ones, not the one that we're going to see. For kulan tahirin. If I thought to bring it out of one of the doors, which is enough a window 4x4 which a mace can get out of, matzelis is called psuchim. It saves all the other ones from tumah. It has to be you thought about it before the person died. So it's much like this. Loit Beis Hillel, there are kalim in all the doorways. I then think I'm going to take it out. So it's huvra hadavar lemafreya, that's where I was going to go out of. And therefore, everything else, even the kalim that are there when the mace is dead, are tahar, because I hold the breira. Whereas Beis Shammai does not hold the breira. Only mikan lahaba would it be tahar. But anything that's previously there, we don't say breira. So what do you see? You see that that Beis Hillel holds a breira. So Fregdemar Akasha, guys, why over here by Hilchos Yantif? Does he have to say Zeh v'zeh ani noito? I'm taking this one and this one. It should be enough to say I'm taking from this place. You didn't designate. Who has to designate? As soon as I take them, it'll be retroactively muvura that these are the ones that I meant the night before. And how do you have a raya that Beis Hillel holds a breira? Because in the case of mace, that he goes ahead and says, even though there were kalim in there beforehand when the mace died, my machshava to take it out this door helps retroactively that those places were tar. So he holds a breira. That's why I read the Gemara. And for the Gemara, ha'itmar Allah, amar rabba, l'taras ha'psach mikan lahaba. No. It's not a breira dikadin. Anything that was there b'shas the mace in the house is tamei. Your thought to take it out later on doesn't help. What does it help? It helps in the future. So therefore, it's not a breira shaila. And therefore, what? Ken Zayin Beis Hillel holds ein breira, and since he holds ein breira, you have to say zeh ani noitel ben hashmashos. He has to go ahead and say mi baydoim. He has to say zeh mi baydoim, not ben hashmashos. Well, it's still Friday. He has to say zeh. Rava says a different teretz to the kasha. Loyal mafreya. All kalim will be tummy because yesh breira. V'hachayin taima because dilma mitaltel v'shavik v'kom mitaltel midei delechazilei. Pirish. He really holds a breira, and really, therefore, you should not have to say what zeh v'zeh. But if you don't say zev zeh, you know what you may do? You come in there, guys. You come in there. You got a bunch of chickens, right? So what are you going to do? Nah, maybe. That'll be a tilta shleiv tzarech. That's not necessary. That's what you're worried about. Hashem came, you say Yona and Yonina, that's it. You got them, right? Once you designate, you got them. They'll sag you, it's enough to say that. Aren't you worried about them going from one to one? So when you say Zev, that's Erev Yontif, right? Avol be Yontif, on Yontif itself, where it's asa to go ahead and take. And that would be the same thing, Erev Yontif saying Mimakam Zeh, the Zim in the Mishtachei Shmeinim, Kechushim Shmeinim, you're going to find fat ones, thin ones, and vice versa. So that's one of the reasons to say Zev Zeh. By saying Zev Zeh, guaranteed you're going to take the right one and not start fooling around. Inami, Zim in the Mishtachei, Kula Kechushim. If you don't say Zev Zeh, maybe you'll find them all Eisketricken. You're going to have Eisketricken chicken, right? Baruch, he'll touch it afterwards. Shavik Lahu, and you're going to leave it. So the whole inyan of saying Zev Zeh, according to Rav, has nothing to do with Breira. Breira taka would work. But to guarantee that you're going to know and take and not fool around with other chickens and not be my name is Simchas Yontif, you designate these two and that's it. Okay? That's the maskana.
Is that only by food? The concept of Simchas Yontif, or it's like the guy could do that with ties, or shirts or clothing, whatever the case may be. Was that only by food?
Why would you have to be making the clothing?
I don't know. The guy said, I want to take this tie versus that tie, and he's rumbling around in his.
You don't have to. It's not. There's no. You don't need. There's no muktzah. You don't need hachana for a tie.
Okay, I'm just saying, like selecting.
It's boirer. That's a shaila boirer. That's not a shaila. That's not a shaila of hachana. There's achana, Heshi. This is achana.
Okay, so I was mixing stuff. All right.
There's achana and there's boirer. It's two different things. Says the Mishnah. Now, zimin shchayrim umatzah leveinim. You go ahead and you prepare black ones, and you find white ones. Leveinim umatzah shchayrim. It's more mastaba, right? White ones, you find black ones. Right? Now, Shnayim umatzah shloisha. You prepare two and you find three. Asurim. All these cases are rasa. We're going to see the Gemara. Shloisha umatzah shnayim. However, three and you find two mutarim, because we'll say that one flew the coop, but these two are from the original ones that remain. B'toich hakan, you mezamen them, the chicks inside the nest. Umatzah lefnei hakan, and you found them in front of the nest. Asurim, because we're going to say those flew the coop, and these took its place. The main sham elahain, if you only have this nest and none others, hari elu mutarim then living with them. Says in the pshita, black and white, white and black. What's the chiddush over here? They're clearly not the ones you designated. I wanted dark meat, and I ended up with white meat. I want white meat, and I ended up with dark meat. What are you talking about? So I'm a rabbi hachamay askinan going shazim and shchayrim uleveinim, vehishkim umatzah shchayrim v'makom leveinim makom shchayrim. You had a switcheroo. You went ahead and you prepared two meals. For one meal in Coop A were black, and the second meal, Coop B, were white. You go to Coop A the next day and you find white, and B, you find black. So clearly the svara is that what? That black and white switch, but they're all from the ones that you were mason. They're all from ones that you prepared. So I would think then that it's mutter. Kamash malon, that it's awesome. You hear the Chiddush, guys. This is the Mishnah, huge Chiddush. Says the Mishnah. Black and white is not speaking about where clearly they're two different birds. Here you have a tzad to say they're the same bird, because I was mason black and I was mason white, but they were in two different locales. One was in nest A and one was in nest B. And I found a switch. Kamash Malon, listen to this chumrah. Kamash Malon, that they're completely different birds that I was not mason. Completely different birds. Says Gemara, I would have thought Hani Inu Ninu, they're the same birds that I was mason. Visapuche is hapich, and they switched. Kemash Malon, Hanich Ozdu Alma, those black and white birds from Erev Yontif flew the coop. Vahani Achmeni Ninu, and these are different ones. Okay? Now, guys, in be Mavaris Suffolk, there are different ways to go ahead and be Mavaris Suffolk. One clear way is Heshi's favorite way is Roiv. You go after Roiv, majority rules. Another way is Koroiv. You use the concept of Koroiv. What would examples be of Roiv? The butcher shops. You got 9 butcher shops in the city that sell kosher meat. One sells treifa meat. You find the meat in the street. Call it parish, meiruba parish. They separate from the Roiv, right? They separate from the Roiv. A case of Koroiv, we had Mishsechta Shkalim. If you find coins, there were 13 pushkas in the base of Mikdash. If you find coins in front of one of them, the one that's between which one, we'd go ahead and figure out. That's not Roiv, that's Koroiv, that's proximity. Good? So over here, guys, listen to this. Over here, we have a Shiloh of Roiv and Koroiv. What's the Koroiv? I did have blackbirds here. I did have white birds here. So if you're going to use the Roiv or Koroiv, I'll say they're the same birds. They were here. In other words, nest A and nest B were close enough to each other. And now I find blackbirds in A and white birds in B. If you use the concept of Koroiv, I'll say those are the same birds. And since I was mazing both of them, I should be able to eat them on Yontif. But we don't say that. We say you go after Roiv. We say these flew the coop. And Roiv are the birds in the world are not the 4 birds that I designated on Yontif. So there's a Shaila, Roiv or Koroiv, which wins? Pashtus over here, we can paskin that what? That Roiv wins. Very interesting lumdis, from birds. Says the Gemara. Let's say by the fact that we say these birds are rasa, that they came me alma, they came from the Roiv. If you have a choice to go after the Roiv, or you have a choice to go after the Koroiv, let's go after the Roiv. And for the Abaya, you have no raya, as the Abaya is going to say soon. Kidam Abaya, bidaf. It's speaking where there's a board, there's a platform in front of there. Hachanami bidaf. Okay, let's see Rashi over here. Rashi says a little more bird talk. Kidam Abaya, first wide line. Bidaf. Sheyesh daf l'fnei ha'shoivich. There's a board in front of the shoivich. Boil it. Guys, you ever see the cuckoo house? It's got a little hole in it, and it's got a little board in front of it. The birds, they go into the board and they jump into the house, right? They have a place to land. And birds come and sit there all the time. They're scared to go into the kan. The ones that are in the nest are going to fight anyone who comes there. So birds land there all the time, but they don't go into the kan. Why? Because it's inhabited by some mean birds. Right? Now, when these leave, those go in. That these birds came out from the konen, from the daf. Hilkach asurim. Therefore, the birds are rasa. They're all considered. In other words, you don't have a roiv over here, guys. You have even the karav over here, guys. Even the karav over here, you can't be placed your shaila. It's even the karav over here is what is black and white, landing there all the time. It's a very geshmaka teretz, right? Very geshmaka teretz. Let's continue. If you have 2 and you find 3, they're rasa. In other words, we don't say one and join the other 2. It's speaking where the guy doesn't recognize the birds. Fellas, this is all speaking where the guy doesn't recognize the birds. It would behoove you in this situation to go ahead and make a mark on a bird. But this is speaking like Basila that you don't have to do any physical act. Good? So if you have 2 and you find 3, we don't say it's 2 plus 1. We say 3. And guess what? You don't know which Memanushach. And you got a problem with manushach. If it's 3 new ones, there was never any has mana. If it's 2 that you are amazing and 1 not, so you can't use the other 2, you have a problem. You have a problem. And you don't say bittul over here by muktzah, right? You don't say bittul by muktzah. Fascinating.
Beria, no, Lace?
Yeah, it's a barrier, but it's like interesting. Midor Raisa, I'm wondering Midor Raisa, you don't say batal b'roiv. Okay. Shleisha umatzah, right? Okay, look at the top Tosfos. Yes, my kasha, guys. Top Tosfos. Yes, my kasha. Ikachadim Arab behuvim time lebatal beruba. Geishleim the bali chayim loy batli chashivi. So that's a shtick like Benji saying that it's a chashivas leberia. Inami havle davashesh matirin lachayantiv v'chol davashesh matirin. I feel about loy batal. Two very good terutzim in bittel, right? And when you battle something, guys, that's also forever. Something that's going to have a shas heta. We did this earlier, right? So it's geshmak. Okay, good place for us to know. It's nice when it makes sense to you. Okay, guys, we're good? Excellent. No more. Okay, let's do a little more. Shloishu matzah shnayim mutarim. 3, and you find 2, it's mutter. My timer. Hani inu ninu. Those 2 that remain are from the originals. The chad minayu ozla alma, and 1 flew the coop, and one went ahead and flew the coop. Okay. Lema maslisan Rabbi he v'lei rabbanan. Now we're going to bring in a case and sushtel. Guys, you have a purse. In the purse, you have mois, maisa. You have $100 of maisa sheni money. You have to bring it to Yerushalayim and eat it there. Spend money there. You go to your purse and you find 200. There's 2 possibilities. One, it's 100 plus 100, meaning you have $100 of maisa sheni and $100 of chulin. Or you have $200 of chulin because the original maisa sheni money is not there at all. Good. So therefore, if you hold that it's maisa sheni money and chulin money, that will be a parallel to our case where we hold that you had 3 and now you have 2. So therefore, it's the original still there, right? The original maisa sheni is still there. Who are then over here? The birds that I prepared are still here. But if you hold that those birds, if you hold that money is totally new money, then over here as well, you must hold these birds are totally new birds. Says the Gemara. Lema, let us say, Mastisan Rabbi he, Veloy Rabbanan, the Tanya, we learned in the Tosefta. Haniach mana, you left $100 worth of Maisa Sheni. Umatzah Masayim, and lo and behold, you get 200. Halavaya Funzgusak, right? Chulin Maisa Sheni Murav Mzeh. It's 100. It's Chulin Maisa Sheni mixed together. It's mixed together, and you know what you're going to have to do? You're going to say you're going to take off the kedusha. You're going to say this one is b'chol. This is Maisa Sheni. It's b'chol on this. But how do you use it, guys? How do you use the chulin money? Maybe it's Maisa Sheni. It's very geshmak. You're going to say if this one's the Maisa Sheni, then great. If it's not the Maisa Sheni, it should be on the other one, and vice versa. And Manushach, you're going to take one and say this is good. They're ready. So haniach masayim matzah mana. Let's say 201. So here's your raya. This is the tushtel of the case. 201. Because we have over here, I start off with 3 and I have 2 remaining. This is the tushtel. This case, guys. I started off with 200. I have 100. I start off with 3 birds. I have 2 birds. Umatzah mana munach umana muto. They're ready. So what happens? 1 left, and 1 remained. So too, the same thing over here. The birds remained. They flew the coop. So the Rabbanan cannot be the Tana of our Mishnah, right? Of this case. Because the Rabbanan say it's totally new. So when our Mishnah says the case of 3, and you have 2 remaining, right? It must be 2 totally new ones, right? Just like my money, it's 2 totally new money. Just like it's totally new money there, it's totally new birds over here. Whereas Rebbe says the original money remains, who are then the original birds remain. So that would be, it works that nicely. Okay. Says the Gemara the following. Afil Tem Rabbana. You can even say the Mishnah to Rabbana. Ha'itmar Allah, Rabbi Yechon Rebbe Lazar, Damat Shavayu, Shiny Goizlais, Ha'il V'asin Dadais. By money, I have trouble explaining, fellas, why I don't have the same amount of money. Money doesn't walk. I mean, literally it doesn't. Literally it doesn't walk. Without a little help, physically it doesn't walk. Right? It needs something else. Yeah, I know you're looking at me like Rabbi Stem. What are you talking about? Anyways, it's the biggest. But you know what I mean. Physically, it doesn't move. But over here, I got 3 birds. I had 3 birds, now I have 2. Guess what? One hopped out. So the Chachamim would admit over here that these 2 are from the original 3. These 2 are from the original 3, because there's a svara to say why one left. Mashenke by money, but there's no svara to say. If a person's going to take it, he's going to take the whole thing. He's not going to go ahead and just take one thing. He's going to take the whole thing. Memela what? It's totally different, and therefore it's not Ma'aser Sheni at all. I'll say it's Chulin. I feel him Rabbanan. Okay, now let's just finish this off to the top of the Amid. The Gemara L'chara has a different teretz. The Gemara is wondering, why do you have to give the teretz that the birds walk? L'chara have another teretz. Why do you have to give that teretz? For Itmar Allah, we learned on that machlokes between Rabbi and the Chachamim. We have machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar as to what the machlokes is. What's the mitzias of the machlokes? The Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar, Chadama one says, the Shnei Kisim machlokes. Machlokes is when they're 2 separate purses. Everyone would admit, even Rabbi would say it's chulin. In other words, if you have $100 and now you have 200, you had 200, now you have one in one thing, everyone would say that it's gone. The machlokes is the money was in one kiss. Now Bishleim that the 2 kisim machlokes in Rabbi and the Chachamim. So 2 goysless guys are like 2 kisim. We can compare two purses to 2 birds. So therefore, if the Chacham are going to say by 2 purses it's chulin, it's 2 different things, therefore you have to come out in the teretz and explain why it's different by birds. Because apparently 2 birds are like 2 purses. So why by birds they hold it's the same bird? Because one could leave. It's one kiss. So everyone holds that what by 2 birds, one is the by everyone holds by the money that one is the original. So even the Chachamim would hold that this is part of the original. So therefore, you wouldn't need the teretz of the dadais that they hop. Guys, if you tell me that that by 2 kisim, when the 2 separate kisim, everyone is maida that it's one of the original really remains, that means by 2 birds, one of the original really remains. So one of the opinions, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yochanan, like him, you didn't have to give a teretz, because the Chachamim agree, since 2 purses are similar to 2 birds, and everyone, even the Chachamim, are made by 2 purses that the original money is still there, who are then by the 2 birds that the original bird is still there. So you didn't have to come on to that it hops out. Right? We're speaking about goyses that are tied together. The kisim mukusharim askinon, and goysloi. And what's the difference? Goyslois menachta adadi. Goyslois, you know what they do? They go ahead and peck away at it, and therefore what? They can escape. Kisim leimantcha adadi. The kisim they're tied together. They don't get loose, and therefore you had to come to onto the thing. Since they get loose, it's not the same. Let's see Rashi on this point. The Hainu, it's speaking where there's 1 kiss. The Hainu shnei kisim b'kusharim, they're tied together, so it's like 1 kiss. U'tekamar of shnei kisim dibya kol mana munach mana mutal 2 purses. It remain that the original remains is b'sheim b'kusharim, but they're not tied together. Since they're tied together, guys, it's not considered 2 separate things. Since it's not 2 separate things, therefore it's like 2 birds. And the Mishnah is mashma afilu b'gaisim b'kusharim. So therefore, you don't have a tzushtel from the Mishnah regarding Ma'aser Sheni and Chulin to our Mishnah, because our Mishnah, even if they're tied together, they're going to get loose. But Hashem with the kisim, they're going to stay together. Since they're tied together, it's not 2 guys' lace, it's 1. They have machlokes. Therefore, you got to come to the teretz of the dadais. So let's see it inside. Amar Rashi. So there's no 2 guys lace. There's no 2 kisim guys. There's only 1 kiss, and by 1 kiss there was a machlokes. Guys lace mantra adadi, and therefore they're considered 2. Kisim like mantra adadi, and they're considered 1. That's the Chachamim. Rabbi Amlacha kisim nami zimnim demisakel ketrayu. maybe the knot gets wearied away, and therefore it's two separate things, and therefore it's the same case as Shnei Goisleis, and therefore the one that you left there is the one that will remain there. Thank you for listening. Wish you all a great Shabbos.
Sure.